Arthur? I guess wasting your galleons on wizard roulette is more important than sending your kids to school. Please don't tell Molly. Hello, World Wide Web. Welcome to Film Conspiracy, the show that, until now, hadn't existed. So consider this a pilot episode, subscribe, and let's get started. The question I wanted to ask today was, why are the Weasleys poor? And more importantly, could their lack of money be fixed? Well, loyal conspirators, I say it can. So call me Robert Kiyosaki or Dave Ramsey because I'm going to be giving out some financial advice. But before we get into that, first we need to establish why the Weasleys are poor. I regret to say it, but the reason the Weasleys are poor is because Mr. Weasley gambles. Maybe I should have put a "this may ruin your childhood" warning up before I said that, but oh well. It's not like the author herself, J.K. Rowling, hasn't done it either. Now, before you all go to the comments and say I have no idea what I'm saying, hear me out. 1, I have proof, and 2, that's why this is called a conspiracy. But believe me, I'm not stupid enough to make an accusation like that without any proof. In the second book, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, towards the end of chapter 2 called The Barrow, we got our first piece of evidence. "What a night," he mumbled, groping for the teapot as they all sat down around him. 9 raids, 9, and old Mundungus Fletcher tried to put a hex on me when I had my back turned. End quote. There you have it. 9 raids. Raids can refer to governments raiding casinos and other gambling outlets. It is my belief that this is what Mr. Weasley meant. He'd gone out to gamble, but the ministry had raided his favorite spots to throw away the dough, or in this case, his children's tuition to go to Hogwarts. Still not working for you? Try this quote from the beginning of chapter 9 called The Dark Mark from the 4th book, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. "Don't tell your mother you've been gambling," Mr. Weasley implored Fred and George as they all made their way slowly down the purple carpeted stairs. "Don't worry, Dad," said Fred gleefully. "We've got big plans for this money. We don't want it confiscated." Mr. Weasley looked for a moment as though he was going to ask what these big plans were, but seemed to decide, upon reflection, that he didn't want to know. End quote. Implore, by dictionary definition, means to request earnestly, or in simpler terms, to beg. Mr. Weasley doesn't want his wife knowing his sons have been gambling and her blaming their behavior on him. But it's that second part, "we don't want it confiscated," that really helps. They don't want their mother to confiscate their money, just like how she confiscates Arthur's money so he can't gamble. Still not working for you? Well, at this point, you're just going to have to accept my conspiracy, because I want to get to actually solving the problem. First, we should find out how much they actually spend on schooling. There isn't any definite number or proof about that, though, because the brilliant mind that is J.K. Rowling thought to herself, fans really want to know more about the wizarding world. Should I elaborate on the economics and culture of the wizards, or that Dumbledore and Grindelwald had an intense relationship? I think people really want to know about that second option. So we're stuck with some Reddit threads, some which, may I add, are from 16 years ago, and a hodgepodge of other websites, all of which may be found in the description. And while you're down there, it'd be greatly appreciated if you hit that big red subscribe button. It's free, and it helps me out. Now, back to the calculations. Using the shopping list in the description from the Pottermore Wiki, as well as a list of school books, we can figure out the price to send all 7 of the Weasley children to Hogwarts for the full 7 years. But before we do that, let's figure out how much it would take to send one kid to school for 7 years. In their first year, students spent 13 galleons or $91 on books. But in book 2, The Chamber of Secrets, they spent about 3.5 times that due to Gilderoy Lockhart's very expensive book list coming in at 55 galleons or $385. But this being about the Weasleys, of course, we have to take into account that they're poor and most likely will get everything at secondhand shops or at discounted prices. So I've done the math to figure out the price of books at 50%, and if that's not enough, 75% off. The price of books at 50% off is 28 galleons or $196. That's a price that seems more in the Weasleys range, but in case the Weasleys are really poor, 75% off the books comes in at 14 galleons or $98. Now on to clothes. A website called Mick, once again you can find it in the description, calculated the price using visual estimates from comparable items on Amazon. The final price came in at $576 or about 83 galleons. Once again I had to find discounted prices for the Weasleys, so the prices came down to this. 50% off the clothes ends up at 41 galleons or $288. That's still quite a lot, so going even further still, 75% off the clothes comes in at about 21 galleons or $144. That's not bad, but it isn't good either. Lastly, we have school supplies. supplies. Using that same shopping list from earlier, school supplies come in at a total of 29 galleons or $203. Once again, we've got to take into account the Weasley's budget. So same as before, 50% off the supplies brings the price down to 15 galleons or $101. If that's yet again too expensive for them, 75% off the school supplies comes down to 7 galleons or about $50. If we add up the cost of everything, books, clothes, and school supplies, we get 3 new figures. The full price for everything stands at 166 galleons or $1,164. But being the Weasleys, they probably won't get anything brand new. So 50% off everything comes in at 84 galleons or $585. And if the Weasleys still can't afford that, 75% off everything ends up at 42 galleons or $294. From the Mick article mentioned, which features a tweet from J.K. Rowling, there was no tuition fee. The Ministry of Magic covers the cost of all magical education. So the final prices we just got are the prices a wizard pays for 1 year at Hogwarts. To make these last few calculations easy to keep up with, let's just say the Weasleys will be paying the cheapest price available at $294 or 42 galleons. 7 years for one kid at Hogwarts stands at $2,058 or 294 galleons. And 7 years for all 7 kids ends up at $14,406 or 2,058 galleons. And here's where this gets complicated. The closest Muggle equivalent job I could find in Mr. Weasley's wizarding job as the head of the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Department is a crime scene investigator. Some of the tasks a crime scene investigator takes part in are talking with victims and witnesses, cartoning off the crime scene to avoid tampering or contamination, looking for physical evidence, and collaborating with other experts to analyze findings, which is basically what Mr. Weasley does. He talks to victims and witnesses and then wipes their minds so they can't remember what happened. He collaborates with other wizarding departments to piece the story together. That's all well and good, but something is still off. This is why I think Mr. Weasley gambles. CSIs get an average yearly income of $72,631. This can range, though, anywhere from $15,000 to $174,000. And here's where the problem sets in. Mr. Weasley is one of 2 heads of his department, so he's probably making a fair bit of dough. So even if he's not making the maximum yearly wage of $174K, let's assume it's at least the common average of $72,631. He could pay off all 7 of his kids' tuitions in 1 year with that. Yet they don't seem to have 2 galleons to rub together. And I think I have a solution. And this could cut down the price quite a lot, which makes me surprised that the Weasleys didn't really think of this. And that, of course, is handing everything down. Since the textbooks and supplies don't seem to change, it's safe to assume that they could just hand down their school supplies to the next youngest child when they're done with them. But I hear you all saying, but wait, they already do that. Actually, no. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is the only book or movie to actually explicitly say that they hand stuff down. IG Ron says in Chapter 6, called The Journey from Platform 9 3/4, I've got Bill's old robes, Charlie's old wand, and Percy's old rat. Every other book and movie we see the Weasleys going out to shop for new clothes and supplies. Now, restocking your inventory of fermented spider eyes and blaze rods is different. I'm talking about handing down cauldrons and uniforms. Without taking up too much more time, the Weasleys' total price to send all 7 of their kids to Hogwarts for the full 7 years comes in at $4,116 or 588 galleons. They would have saved $10,290, 1,470 galleons. So move over BJ's coupon book because that is a lot of savings. Maybe if Mr. Weasley could just sort out his gambling problem, they would have even more money in their vault at Congrats. But until then, remember, it's all just a conspiracy. A film conspiracy. Thanks for watching.